Boothiels struck the warped boards of Dust Creek's Main Street, each step echoing against the shuttered windows and sagging awnings. The air shimmered with heat, heavy with grit that scratched the throat. Saloon doors swung open under a rough shove, and 5 riders spilled inside, spurs jangling, laughter hard and sharp as broken glass. The smell of smoke and horse sweat followed them. Their leader, a broad man with a scar cutting from his brow to his cheek, slammed his fist onto the bar. Bottles rattled. Land deeds. Every damn one of them, he growled. Hand 'em over, or we'll start taking pieces of this town instead. No voice rose to meet him. Men hunched over their whiskey, staring into the amber like it might hide them. The barkeep's hand shook as he poured, glass clinking. Even the piano player froze, fingers hovering in silence. Then came the sound, heels measured, deliberate. A woman in black moved from the shadowed corner. Her face, carved by sun and sorrow, betrayed nothing. In her grip hung a burlap sack, worn and cinched tight with twine. Dust clung to its fabric like it had followed her from the graveyard. She did not bow, did not flinch. She simply stood, the sack cradled close. The scarred man smirked, his voice mocking. Well now, Clara Ellison, still carrying that bundle of secrets? Maybe it's gold you've been hoarding. Maybe it's a gun. His hand shot forward, fingers closing around the sack. Please. Her voice broke through the stifled air, soft yet sharp enough to still every breath in the room. Don't take the sack off. The laughter that followed was uneasy, edged with something none of them cared to name. You begging now? One of the outlaws sneered, though his grip loosened all the same. Clara's eyes, dark as storm clouds, didn't waver. The saloon lantern swung overhead, throwing long shadows across her face, across the burlap. The silence that followed pressed heavier than the desert heat outside. The scarred man pulled back slow, chuckling under his breath, though the sound cracked like dry timber. Ain't worth my time. Yet, he spat at her boots, and the spit sizzled against the dust. The outlaws turned, sweeping bottles into their saddlebags, shoving chairs aside, promising they'd return for what was owed. Their spurs clattered as they pushed into the sunlit street again. Clara did not move until their shapes blurred into the brightness beyond the swinging doors. Only then did she shift, the sack still clutched tight to her chest. The hush of the room did not lift. No one asked what was inside. No one dared. And somewhere in that silence, the whisper of the wind through the saloon's cracks carried the weight of something old, something waiting to be seen. The lantern light flickered low, smoke curling up in lazy spirals, choking the stale air. Boots scraped across the warped saloon floor as men shifted, waiting for the widow to falter, to slip, to show fear. She did not. The envelope still sat before the gunslinger. His thumb ran along its edge, slow, thoughtful. At last, he pushed it back. You're playing a hand most don't walk away from. Her gloved fingers drew it back toward her. She tapped the paper once, flat against the wood. When the time comes, you'll understand. The batwing doors creaked again. Judge Kellen stepped forward, silver chain glinting in the lamplight. His men fanned out behind him, their laughter a rough tide rolling over the room. He leaned one elbow on the bar, eyes sliding over the widow with an oily grin. You carry yourself bold for a woman with nothing left, he said. But grief will do that. Some folks drink it out. Some burn it out. Some, like you, think to gamble it away. The widow raised her veil just enough to drain the last of her whiskey. The glass rang sharp when it hit the bar. She spoke quiet, but the whole room leaned in to hear. I don't gamble. I collect. A hush. The judge's smile flickered, then steadied, sharpened. He placed his watch on the counter, ticking loud in the silence. Careful. Some debts are too heavy to lift. One of his men, a broad-shouldered drunk, lurched forward, shoving a chair aside. He grabbed for her arm. In a blur, his wrist cracked backward, bone splitting sound from flesh. His scream tore through the haze, silencing the room. The widow didn't rise, didn't shift. She merely set her glass upright again and spoke without looking at the man writhing at her feet. That was mercy. The judge's jaw tightened. He forced a chuckle, slow and brittle. Strong words for a woman alone. her veil tilted toward him. The lamplight caught her eye beneath the black cloth, pale, cold, unblinking. "You bought this land with blood," she said. "You bought my silence with his death. But every bargain runs out, Judge." The room drew in breath all at once, the air thick with the weight of something old and dangerous stirring again. The judge smoothed his coat and stepped back toward the doors, his men closing in around him. His voice carried as he went. "Best leave with the morning coach, widow. Shadows don't last long in this town. Sun burns him clean away." Her hand rested on the empty glass. The faintest tremor of her veil shifted as though she smiled beneath it. "Then let the sun find me." The storyteller's voice broke the silence, brittle as wind through dry grass. And that night, with dust thick in the air and shadows long on the floor, every man who heard her knew the widow wasn't waiting on mercy. She was waiting on the dawn. Torches burned low in the canyon, throwing jagged light against the stone. The widow stood alone at the center, her veil stirring in the night wind. Shadows shifted all around, Kellen's men circling like coyotes. Bootsteps crunched gravel. A sneer slid through the dark. "Thought grief made you bold, widow. All it made was a fool stand-in where she don't belong." Rifles cocked. Spurs rattled. She did not move. Her hand hovered near her side, fingers resting calm above the worn leather of a holster most thought decorative, a keepsake from her dead husband. She let the silence stretch until the men grew restless. Then she raised her head, veil lifting in the torchlight. The canyon breathed in as one. The pale light gleamed first, milky, scar-torn, unblinking. The other, sharp as flint. Her face, half carved by war, half hidden by years of silence, stared back at them with no tremor, no shame. A voice cracked from the ring. "Sweet Lord, it's her." The name fell like a stone into a well. The pale-eyed widow. Men shifted, fear replacing mockery. They remembered old tales, gunfights that ended before they began, 7 men down in the dust with her rifle still cold. Some had sworn she died years back. Others prayed she had. She touched the veil once, folded it away, and let the torches show her scars. Her voice carried low, steady, unshaken. "You bought your law in blood, but law don't wash clean. Not in this desert." The first man rushed her, fool or brave, no matter. Steel flashed, then fire. A single shot cracked, echoing sharp off the canyon walls. He fell face first, torch rolling from his hand. The air tore open. Gunfire thundered, rifles blazing orange. She moved fast, not wild, each shot precise, each step measured. Dust boiled up, gun smoke curling thick until figures were only shadows in the haze. But every time a shadow lunged, it fell. The men cursed, stumbled, fired blind. Horses reared, screaming. Her pale eye caught every movement, unblinking, merciless. She reloaded with the rhythm of a heartbeat, and with each pull of the trigger, another body struck the dirt. By the time the torches guttered out, silence held the canyon. Only the rasp of the wind and the ragged breaths of the dying broke it. On the ridge above, Judge Kellen sat stiff in his saddle, face pale as chalk. He had wanted a broken widow, something to mock, to crush beneath his boot. What he saw instead hollowed him out. Not a grieving woman, not a rancher's widow, but the ghost of every lawless deed he'd ever bought. The storyteller's voice slid in low, rough, final. And under that veil, what the judge found shattered him. Not softness, not surrender, but the pale eye of vengeance, carved by war, risen from grief. The mask was gone, and the desert had its reckoning. Dawn cracked over the rooftops, bleeding red across the sky. The street lay empty, dust swirling slow in the still air. Doors shut, shutters latched, but behind every crack of wood, eyes watched. The widow stood in the center of the street, veil gone, face bare to the rising sun. Her hand rested near her side, fingers loose, patient. Across from her, Judge Kellen stepped out of the shadows. His boots struck hollow against the boards, each step louder than the last. Behind him, no men, no shield. The canyon had swallowed them all. Only him now, only her. He adjusted his coat, silver chain glinting, though his hand trembled as it touched the watch. His smile strained thin, skin pulled tight over fear. "You think you've won," he said. "But law's mine in this town. Always was. Always will be." The widow's pale I caught the first slice of sunlight, cold and steady. "You paid for me," she said. "Now end it." The words hung sharp in the morning silence. Kellen's hand twitched toward his gun. Faster than breath, faster than thought, but not faster than her. One shot cracked. The sound rolled down the street, bounced off walls, tore through silence. Smoke curled in a single ribbon from her barrel. Judge Kellen staggered, eyes wide, hand still clutching steel he never drew. He collapsed into the dirt, the sun spilling over him as though mocking. Dust rose around his body, then settled, still as stone. The widow holstered her gun, slow, deliberate. She did not speak, did not look back. She walked past him, boots brushing through the dust, her shadow stretching long across the dead man. The town stayed hushed. Not a cry, not a cheer, only silence broken by the creak of sign in the faint morning breeze. She passed the last building, then the corral, and stepped into the open desert. Her figure shrank against the horizon, black dress whipping in the wind, then faded into light. The storyteller's voice came low, heavy as earth on a grave. And so it ended in lead and ash. Some said she rode east, some west. Some swore she never stopped riding, only chasing the edge of the horizon. But all remembered the day she stood bare-eyed in the sun and took back what grief had stolen. A widow's vengeance, written not in sorrow, but in fire and dust. They called her many names after, ghost, outlaw, savior. But the desert remembers her by one, the pale-eyed widow. And if you listen close, when the wind cuts low through the canyon, you'll hear the echo of that single shot, the one that laid a judge in the dirt and carved her tale into legend.